Number 10 took his own life, right in front of Robin no less. Of course, this was all part of a plot to get into the exclusive Death Cheaters Club, but he still made Robin take part in this wacky scheme. Not only did Robin have to stand by and witness Bruce drink a poisonous concoction so that he might momentarily die, but he also was involved in that scheme. It was Robin's role to go and retrieve the doctor, who was at Wayne Manor to visit the elderly butler, Alfred. Dick had to pretend this all happened randomly, by the way, and wasn't planned at all. While the doctor attempted to revive Bruce, he began to worry with every passing second if Bruce would manage to recover and how awful Dick would feel if Bruce died. He was like, this is terrible, what if it doesn't work out? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that you'd feel that way. I feel like this is not an activity that your kid's sidekick should be involved in. You shouldn't just be like, I'm just gonna take my own life and put myself in this place, but don't worry, it'll all work out, and just be here and make sure it works out. That's a lot of pressure. I'm like 11, Batman. Number 9 made Robin dig his own grave. This actually happened to Dick Grayson's Robin in the comic World's Finest in issue 197. One of those stories where the plot is all based around one shocking, comic-selling, cover-featured moment. In this case, the moment was getting Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen and Robin to dig their own graves, while Superman and Batman stand over watching them, threatening to kill them once they're finished. Oh my goodness. How could this happen? Well, I mean, Batman was going to do the killing here anyways, because Superman has a very strict moral code that he simply cannot break. But I know, you're probably wondering, how did this happen? It's so crazy. Look at this cover. Well, this seems awful because, like I said, shock factor. In reality, this all came about as a misunderstanding. Batman had bumped his head and believed that he was mafia crime boss Lucas. I think I'm saying that right. Lucas. However, once his memories were recovered, it was too late. Superman was forced to seemingly kill Jimmy and Superman using his heat vision at the behest of the real Lucas, who appeared on scene. But don't fret though, this was all a clever ruse created by Superman to help them all escape safely, as well as apprehend the criminal. The overall plan also involved wax figures and a little piece of mint candy, because classic comics. I was wondering that when I saw when I saw Jimmy and Robin get melted, that's what I was wondering. I was like, wait a minute. They melted like pretty intensely, like a candle. They must be wax figures. Also, I love that can all happen in front of like a bunch of people and everyone's like, yeah, that looks legit. Alright friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to hear about some more dastardly deeds that Batman has done to Robin, trust me, there are lots more, because classic comics and everyone was terrible back then. So be sure to let us know that you love this list by giving it a thumbs up, and maybe I'll have some more terrible things that Batman did to Robin to tell you about. Number 8, Rick Grayson. In a weird way, Rick Grayson was kind of Batman's fault, although KG Beast was the one who shot Nightwing, resulting in the brain damage that would of course affect his memories and leave him as Rick Grayson. Just around the time we had only just got him back as Nightwing as well. It would later be revealed that this incident was actually part of a larger plot, a plot to break Batman concocted by Bane and in part Thomas Wayne Sr., aka Flashpoint Batman. This proves that just being close to Batman can lead to all sorts of messed up things happening, including you forgetting who you are and instead of getting to be a hero again, becoming a very lost man named Rick, and later a brainwashed pawn of Jokers known as Dickie Boy. Rick Grayson was not a great time for Nightwing in the comics, and it all pretty much happened just because he was close to Batman and could be used as a tool to hurt him. So basically just one of the worst things I guess Batman can even do to anyone is be like, hey, you're cool and I like you. If Batman likes you, that's not good. Probably. Villains will come for you. Number 7, letting them fight at all. One of the worst things he ever did to Robin, Stephanie Brown, was probably to have ever let her fight at all, especially as this was considered such a controversial topic by Batman's friend at the time, Dr. Leslie Tompkins. In the story War Games, Stephanie Brown attempts to win Batman's favor back after being fired by him by putting a plan in motion to give Batman control over all the rival gangs of Gotham. Unfortunately, this doesn't work out, because she is missing crucial information involving the real identity of Matches Malone. Spoiler, Matches Malone is Batman. And Stephanie ends up being captured and tormented by Black Mask. In the end, she succumbs to her injuries, but it was later revealed that this was because Tompkins, who recovered Stephanie, allowed her to die, all to prove a point to Batman about raising kids to become vigilantes. This would later be retconned so that, in truth, Dr. Tompkins had actually faked Brown's death to prove a point, but took her with her afterwards when she fled, not actually allowing her to die. I mean, I agree with that retcon because I feel like otherwise Wow, you made Leslie seem like really terrible. And yeah, that would be awful. Still though, if Batman had never had Robins to begin with, Stephanie would have never joined him, been fired, and then ended up almost dying after falling into the dangerous, sadistic hands of Black Mask. All in all, a lot of grief could have been avoided if Batman just didn't have Robins. Number 6. A Batcave bedroom. In Frank Miller's All-Star Batman and Robin, the list of injustices committed against poor Robin, Dick Grayson, are very long. Included in this long list is the time that Bruce made Robin sleep in the Batcave. Literally, Bruce Wayne is a super rich millionaire type who has a giant house and could have let Robin sleep anywhere else. But here, Batman is trying to, I don't really know, is teach Robin a lesson? Torment him into submission? I'm not really sure of the motivation, but either way, he feels it's better if Robin is forced to sleep in the Batcave to learn probably some kind of lesson. The Batcave is a literal cave, by the way, so it's drafty and completely unsuited for sleep when it comes to comfort levels. I feel like it might be time to call child services on Batman. Someone get Robin help. Number 5. Rats for dinner. As if the previous point wasn't enough, Bruce not only deprived Robin of a warm, dry, and draft-free place to sleep, but he also deprived him of a rat-free place to sleep. The Batcave, you see, is filled with rodents, apparently, and when young Dick Grayson asked Batman and Alfred about dinner, he was refused any food from the household and instead told that he should catch his own supper, forcing him to dine on rats. What is happening? All-Star Batman was really brutal, not just to people he didn't like, but even to those he supposedly did like, such as Robin. Although I think maybe Batman needed to turn Robin into like a big jerky jerk like him in this universe before he would fully like him, because this Batman was definitely a jerky jerk. So maybe that's what was up with all the making him sleep in the Batcave and eat rats and stuff. Number 4. Slept with Batgirl. Although honestly, I wish I could count this for Babs too, but she's never been a Robin, so although it feels like there is some injustice that was done to her here as well, we're just gonna focus on the pain that these two caused Dick Grayson, Nightwing, who is basically Batman's surrogate son in almost every reality, and probably one of the most famous Robins. This one comes from the Batman Beyond continuity and apparently happened when Dick Grayson was out of town. Not only is this messed up because, well, I mean, Babs was Dick's girlfriend, akin to a daughter-in-law to Bruce, but he also ended up getting her pregnant. The affair between Bruce and Babs ruined Nightwing and Batgirl's relationship, obviously, and afterwards Bruce didn't even stay with Barbara as the two broke up after she lost the baby. Major yikes alert. Number 3. Unable to save Robin. In this case, Batman was unable to save Robin this time around in the Batman Beyond universe when he was kidnapped by the Joker and Harley Quinn. For this one, we're talking about Tim Drake Robin. Tim Drake was out on patrol on his own. He ended up kidnapped and hidden in Arkham Asylum for 3 weeks, with Batman unable to find him while he was tormented and brainwashed by the Joker and Harley into becoming Joker Jr., and also was coerced into revealing secret intel about Batman as well. This whole thing, it was pretty awful. And although Batman can't be held responsible for Joker and Harley's actions here, it is pretty strange that Robin managed to stay missing for 3 weeks, and also that he remained hidden away in such an obvious place as Arkham Asylum. I thought Batman was supposed to be one of the world's greatest detectives. The pain didn't end there for Tim either. No one would happen to catch a sneaky microchip that was implanted in Tim, which years later would actually cause him to regress, with Joker's personality gradually taking him over again. Fortunately, Terry McGinnis' Batman at that point was there to save the day and managed to destroy the chip, freeing Tim for good. But that wasn't Bruce Wayne Batman, that was Terry McGinnis Batman, so just saying. Number 2. Dead. Probably one of the worst things even in Batman's mind that he has ever done to any of his Robins is when he let Jason Todd die. Well, I mean, he didn't let him die. He wasn't just like standing there and he was like, yeah, I'm just gonna look the other way for this one. He did try to save him, but unfortunately he made it too late. This also would create a major shift for Jason, who would return many years later, alive once more, feeling as though not only did Batman fail to save him, but he also failed him in the sense of abandoning him, as Jason did manage to survive. Now granted, Batman and the rest of the Bat family, they never knew about that. So although Jason still holds this grudge somewhat even today, it feels like he's expecting a lot from Bruce and company. Cause like, they would have been there for you, Jason, if they knew. However, if you ask Batman, not being able to save Jason Todd would probably be pretty high up on his own list of worst things he has ever done to a Robin. Number 1. Killed almost all of them. Despite it being in the name, it's sometimes easy to forget that the Batman who laughs was also once very much Bruce Wayne and the vigilante hero known as Batman. However, after being exposed to some very noxious Joker venom stored in Joker's spine and last breath as Batman snapped his neck, killing him, Batman began to change. He became more and more paranoid and villainous, becoming ultimately an insane, almost hybrid version of hero and villain. Part Batman, part Joker when it came to his psyche. This prompted Batman to summon all of his Bat family members, but rather than ask them for help, he killed them all. Well, all of them except the Robin who was also his son Damian Wayne, who he instead offered a place at his side. Damian accepted and was spared, but every other Robin was pretty much murdered by the Bat himself, at least in this dark multiverse reality.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Diana gets ahead of the game. One of the changes to reality that occurs during the Flashpoint event is when Wonder Woman and Aquaman get married. I mean, it's great. I mean, well, not really. I mean, weddings are fun, I guess. I don't know. I hear shout and then I black out. It's so weird how that works. So this is the reality now where Bruce Wayne was shot and not his parents. And if that wasn't wild enough, Superman is now in a government lab having a not so relaxing time. And then we see Diana being saved by a sea monster from Aquaman. How lovely. A nice thing. This is great. We have nice things in this list already. Lovely. Ah yes, classic Wonder Woman. Nice. Nothing like getting cheated on and then having your head cut off, adding injury to insult this time. And then she pops her crown off of her severed head and then places it nicely on her own head. A war of course follows between the Atlanteans and the Amazons, but it comes to a lovely conclusion when Wonder Woman stabs Aquaman in the back. And yes, I mean literally in a sense. And before we go on to number 9, guys, if you want to go ahead and give this video a like, that would be great. You're the best. Thank you so much for watching. Let's pop right back into number 9 right off the bat. Let's keep going. Number 9, hard feelings. This next one isn't exactly a bad deed, but it's too weird of a Justice League story to not include, so I'm gonna throw it in at number 9. One I'd rather not have in my brain all day, so let's just get it out of the way. So now we go to World's Finest Comics issue 289. So Batman and Superman decide to catch up on some bro time, you know, take a break from beating up bad guys, just have a heart-to-heart, see what's going on in here. Now this heart-to-heart is the start of a wild adventure. Now the issue is titled The Krill Way of Dying, and the dialogue itself is really good stuff actually. It highlights the mental health struggles that superheroes go through, you know, not being able to save everybody. It's meaningful, it's powerful dialogue, but what takes this issue to new heights, well rather new lows, is when Superman and Batman are interrupted by a meteorite crashing, and out of the meteorite emerges the Crew. Now the Crew, not what you imagine in your head off the bat. I can tell you that because the Crew, they're a bunch of space worms and they're attracted to sadness. That's how they found the two, because they were talking about super sad stuff and they're like, yes, sad, this way, let's go, let's head it. Their super depression was literally glowing. So these aliens need emotion in order to pass away. See what happens when you try and feel nice things, Justice League? Way to go, now we're all crying. I'm definitely crying. They're dead. Space worms are coming for me because I'm crying now. What a vicious circle. Number 8, Lockdown, Beatdown. Kingdom Come is a 4-issue miniseries that comes from Mark Waid and Alex Ross. It's an Elseworlds imprint. Now, in this alternate reality, 20 years into the future, our heroes have gotten a little older, so they settled into the retirement life. Now, these new anti-heroes stepped up, and new vigilantes, of course, soon followed. Some of them were children of the previous superheroes, so it goes kind of deep. See, Parasite breaks open a hero named Captain Atom, and you already know by his name how that's gonna turn out if something like that were to explode. Boom! There goes Kansas, gone. No, literally, Kansas was gone. It was now just this wasteland. So this is when the Justice League comes in to save the day, or I guess turn the wasteland into a super prison too. That as well. So when you throw supervillains and superheroes into this alien tech super prison, there's gonna be a few fistfights, that's for sure. Number 7, Tower of Babel. JLA Tower of Babel is a Justice League storyline, and one of the best storylines in my humble opinion. Written by Mark Waid and illustrations by Howard Porter, Batman is the greatest detective alive. Odds are, if you're ever in a room with Batman, he's already thought out your every move and he's planned his accordingly. He's always 2 steps ahead. That's what makes him the best. He also just happens to be the sole reason that everything goes in this storyline. He doesn't mean to, but it happens. So Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins launched this huge simultaneous attack on every member of the Justice League of America. Now the attacks are so specific, they're aware of the weakness of each League member. Now Batman was once worried that one or all of them could go rogue at any point, so he had contingency plans in order to take them out if that day ever came. So Talia al Ghul broke into the Batcave and stole those files. So if you want to take down some bad guys, here's exactly how to do it. Thanks, Batman. The best files ever. Now we have all the deepest, darkest secrets. Cool. So Plastic Man gets frozen and then shattered. A specifically designed Vibra bullet hits the Flash in the neck and causes him to have seizures at light speed, which sounds like an absolute nightmare. And Superman gets exposed to red kryptonite, and sadly, many more get hit too. Number 6, Batman ignores Blue Beetle. So back in Countdown to Infinite Crisis, Blue Beetle had actually approached his super friends and teammates after he had discovered something called the OMAC Project. So he brought it to Batman's attention. But Bruce just doesn't really give a damn at this point. He brushes him off almost immediately. Well, the OMAC Project, of course, turned out to be something, and when Blue Beetle discovered it, he's all by himself, and he doesn't live to tell the tale. If only Batman just took him seriously in this moment, things would have turned out a lot less ugly for him. I mean, I know Batman created this thing in the first place, so it's kind of fair that he didn't listen to him, but like before Infinite Crisis, the OMACs killed a lot of people. Shouldn't have just given him like 2 minutes to maybe explain. And the fact that Batman didn't just listen to his team member, especially when he already knew something was kind of going on, sounds like it's all on you, Batman. I don't want to be the guy to say it, but I was just the guy to say it. Number 5, Wonder Woman hunts the Huntress. The Injustice universe shows us a different side to our team members, sometimes a little darker than we're ready for. So in issue 21 of Injustice Gods Among Us Year 3, we find our main supers in a world that's not so bright. And when it comes to issue 21 of Injustice Year 3, DC shows us yet again how great Wonder Woman is at cracking that lasso of truth. It's just a matter of where she cracked it, that was the problem. Well, she wraps it around the neck of the Huntress, and the crack that we hear is exactly what you think. Bam. So Batgirl calls her out for being a murderer, even though she really didn't mean to do it. Accidents happen, especially in the middle of a battle, you know, it happens. I mean, the tension was high. The Huntress was punching through shields. Wonder Woman just reacted in a violent way. It happens, you're a superhero. I remember one time I wrist shot an orange hockey ball through a garage door thing. It's like, you know what? When you're in the middle of it, accidents happen, you get crazy. Number 4, get a room. Look guys, superheroes have emotions just like us, okay? They meet other superheroes and they take down bad guys together. They hook up in the sky in the owl ship above the rest of the world. They're just like us, okay? Sometimes key intimate moments are hard to conceal when you have the powers of a god, right? Specifically Wonder Woman and Superman. So after the triumph that is The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller decided to dive into an intimate moment with those two. So Wonder Woman and Superman embrace in each other, but where does this happen? In a fancy hotel? Fortress of Solitude? No and no. They get it on up there in the sky, of course, where everyone can see and hear. So they're superheroes, so this caused massive tidal waves. Volcanoes are blasting off, people are even evacuating islands. Like, this is a bad day. I mean, bad day for everybody but Superman and Wonder Woman. They look like they had a great time. Number 3, Superman moves Atlantis. Injustice Gods Among Us issue 12 is the final issue of the first Injustice comic series written by Tom Taylor, and we see Aquaman just unleash the ultimate pain. He's not having an easy go at this time. He's unleashing armies on coastal cities. He's trying to show Superman that he has the power as well, and that he's not going to allow Atlantis to be taken over. So Superman is like, okay, you think you're the tough dude? No problem. Let me step in. Superman sees this as a threat, and even Batman's like, great, this is exactly what I thought was gonna happen between these two. So Superman doesn't just fly in, fight Aquaman one-on-one, and then settle their differences with this whole ordeal. No, instead Arthur gets the help of Wonder Woman and Green Lantern, and they literally move Atlantis. They move Atlantis like it's new furniture.
Pivot! Pivot!
They move it to the Sahara Desert, the place with the least amount of water possible. Not cool, guys, not cool. Number 2, Superman outs Batman. So in the climax of Batman vs Superman, we see Bruce Wayne straight up try and take out the Man of Steel. It's intense, and it ends with Superman not surviving in a way, but until he comes back in the Justice League movie. Spoilers. So if you're feeling a little upset about that, this next one should turn the tables in your mind. Superman once outed Batman, and he did it in a pretty hilarious way. Through social media, of course, of course. Did he make a TikTok? No. Was it through Ask FM? No and no. It was in the pages of Injustice Gods Among Us issue 10. I mentioned this comic earlier because it has our super friends going against each other, but Superman takes it up to the next level when he posts Batman's true identity online. His tweet was quite simple and to the point. Batman is Bruce Wayne. 1.5 million retweets, not too shabby at all. Batman's trending on Twitter in real life almost like once a week, so I'm just waiting for the day when I look and I'm like, yes, Batman is real. And he's Paul Giamatti, get out of here, I knew it. I knew it. Number 1, Justice Lords. The DCEU introduced us to the Justice Lords back in November 2003 in an episode titled A Better World. Was it a better world? No, definitely not. They were a multiversal counterpart of the Justice League. This is an alternate universe now, one where Lex Luthor is the current president of the United States. The Justice Lords were assembled to protect humanity from itself, which just sounds like bad news. That sounds like a bad story in the making. So yeah, they were robot replicas of Superman, and the inmates of Arkham Asylum were brainwashed and lobotomized. Just not an ideal world at all, definitely not a better one. And then when the Justice Lords of this universe found out they weren't alone, they tried to bring their ways of heroics over to our world. But our good Justice League took them down with the help of our Lex Luthor, who used a power disruptor to neutralize their super abilities. So it's like good Lex, bad Lex, good team, bad team, mind explosion. The idea of a rogue team member is terrifying, but a rogue team? What a nightmare. How do you stop them?
Number 10. A healthy diet. What makes a deadly space goop even more terrifying? Well, let's start with its choice of meal. Us. He likes to eat us and our brains. In The Amazing Spider-Man issue 333, Venom said to Spider-Man, "We want to eat your brain." Now, him just saying that to you must be intimidating enough, let alone actually doing it, which we see in Venom the Hunger issue 1. He even surprises himself too when it goes from just being a threat to an actual thing that happens. The symbiote needs to feast on brains, not just because it's yummy and fun, but because of a certain chemical found in the brain instead. Eddie isn't a big fan of this throughout the comics and often prevents it from happening by giving Venom chocolate instead. In my opinion, that's a really good solution. Offer anybody chocolate instead of anything, they'll probably take it. Because chocolate contained the same chemical, so it worked. It was a nice tasty substitute. Until eventually writers just stopped including the need for human brains for a meal altogether, which is great. Let's just do more of that, less eating brains. And before we head over to number 9, if you guys could go ahead and give us a thumbs up down below, that would be great. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching. Now back to our list. Number 9, pushed Peter Parker. Now when I say he pushed Peter Parker, you might be thinking, okay, well, so what? This guy does backflips off the Empire State Building for fun. So what's a push really gonna do to this guy? Well, this was an issue because Peter Parker's spider sense didn't go off, which he found troubling. It should have went off. It's danger. Why didn't they tell him? Now, do keep in mind, this is before Venom made his big comic book debut in Amazing Spider-Man 300, so his ability to block his spider sense was still a mystery. So Peter luckily saved himself with his reflexes and Good Samaritans to help him out off the tracks, but Venom was trying to get rid of Peter long before he was slurping up bad guy brains. Now, the fact that he didn't say anything catchy or announce his big plan, any villain monologue, makes it more realistic and pretty scary. Number 8, Mary Jane trauma. Back in his first comic book appearance in 1988, one of the first things Venom did was introduce himself to Mary Jane in the next issue. In this moment, she can't even remember her name. She knows almost nothing because her mind has been harshly numbed while she's cruelly drowned in this onrushing tide of primal fear. That's what the comic says. That's how they described it. And these emotions may never fully fade away. And it's all thanks to Venom. She's so beyond scared that when Peter walks in with the black suit on, she thinks that it's Venom for a brief second. Venom even says that although it wasn't their target, shaking her up could still work. Yeah, for sure. Let's just terrify some people and ruin their lives just because. Awesome. Therapy not included. Number 7, broke Black Cat's nose and heart. Venom wanted everything to do with Spider-Man. He wanted to take away everything, starting of course with his love life. So in Amazing Spider-Man 316, he goes after another close acquaintance. This time it's Black Cat. We see her in a train of thought, wondering where Spider-Man had moved to. How peculiar indeed, I wonder. So she's come to realize that her and the spider should be together, and then now Venom comes in just to ruin her entire day. Venom attacks and figures she must know where he is, although she legitimately doesn't. So before Venom heads out, he casually mentions that Parker's wife didn't know where he was either, adding insult to injury, literally. She got a broken nose, and then he's like, hey, by the way, he's married, so your night just went from good to the opposite. What a terrible night too. Imagine getting your nose broken and then someone's like, hey, by the way, she's married. Number 6, leave a trail. When Eddie Brock was doing time at Rikers Island, his cellmate just happened to be Cletus Cassidy, who was in there for, let's just say, some horrible things. So when Venom came and reunited there with Eddie, part of the symbiote was left behind as they were breaking out, taking over Cletus Cassidy. This guy was horrible beforehand. I mean, he was in there because he took out tons of guys and he bragged about it the entire time. He's sick. So that plus the symbiote equals Carnage, making its first debut in Amazing Spider-Man 361, Carnage Part 1. He's one of the biggest, baddest villains in the comic, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing Woody Harrelson play him in the live-action Venom sequel. Now, while most of this can be pinned on Cletus being the main problem here, we have to add it to the list. Always make sure you don't leave any space goop behind, especially not in prison. Come on, Venom, who do you think's gonna grab it? Number 5, ditch the gear. Sometimes when you don't need something anymore, you drop it like it's hot. Like that scene from Forrest Gump, where Forrest runs out of his leg braces. But now sometimes when you realize you don't need something and you get rid of it, sometimes you just happen to be Venom, and sometimes that thing you no longer need is Angelo Fortunato. So back in 2005, Marvel wanted to reboot Venom. So the new Venom host was Don Fortunato, after he won the symbiote in an auction. What a great win, by the way. I would definitely bet on that. He gave the suit to his son Angelo to make him more tough. Okay, sure, it works. Hey, trust me, man, it works. Eddie warned him about the risks, but Angelo didn't listen. Angelo attacked Spider-Man and ripped out his heart, only to discover that it was just an imposter. And then after a fight with Spider-Man, Angelo just left out of fear. He was getting his butt kicked, he wanted nothing to do with it. And Venom wasn't a fan of that, so he left the host mid-air. Mid-air, he just dropped him like it's hot. But his gear wasn't working properly after the fight Angelo had just caused, so how unfortunate is that? Number 4, killed Uncle Ben. On Earth 2301, better known as Marvel's Mangaverse, we see Ben Parker part of the Spider Clan. He's skilled and ambitious, and he even plans to open his own martial arts school. How badass is that? So during this time, he was teaching a young Peter Parker the ways of the Spider Clan. When one day Peter was rushing to avoid being late to the dojo, he was surprised to see all the lights were off. Huh, weird. I wonder if there's like a surprise party or something, or maybe Venom's here. Huh, let's hope it's the first one. With his last words being, "With great power comes great responsibility," he died at the hands of Venom. There's a nice scene later on where the two talk again, and Uncle Ben gives the advice needed to Peter in this dreamlike sequence. It's beautiful, but the damage Venom did on this Earth was permanent. And sad too, quite sad. Number 3. Lee Price. When Venom bonds to a host, depending on who that person is, things could be manageable. Like Eddie Brock, for example, things are manageable, it's kind of workable. But sometimes they can be even worse than before. Like in the case of Lee Price. Lee had a pretty rough time growing up. He was bullied, and his father wasn't the best role model by any way, and he treated his mother in an awful way as well. Just not a great guy, not a great house. So in order to escape this horrid living situation, Lee thought it best to burn down the apartment, all while his parents were still in there. Like I said, not a nice guy. And to get away with it, he blamed it all on a mutant with pyrokinesis, who at the time was his friend. So Lee suppressed this for years, and he grew up actually believing that the boy had actually done this. And he also thought that his dad had abandoned him the whole time. That's how far his brain has gone believing this. Later in life, he spent 5 years as a ward of the state before joining the army, until an explosion resulted in the loss of a couple squad members and a couple of fingers. Already a tough life, now enter Venom. You know it's bad when even Venom is trying to unbond with you. That's how you know. Lee used the symbiote for awful things, so much so that Venom was actually relieved once Lee had left the picture. Number 2, Anne Weying. Anne first met Eddie Brock at Empire State University. She made her comic book debut back in Amazing Spider-Man issue 375. She reflects on how once upon a time her and Eddie were in love. That's right, he was smart, witty, with a boyish charm that swept her off her feet. So what happened? Well, while they were married, Eddie became a journalist for the Daily Globe, and she was a lawyer. So far sounds great. Sounds like a lovely household with people doing great work. After she divorced him, things only got worse for her. Like for example, I don't know, she was shot by the villain Sin Eater. Yeah. And then after that, Eddie figured it's a good idea to loan her some of the symbiote to heal her up. Now it worked, but the only downside is now we have a she-Venom for a bit. She ended up ending the lives of 2 men who attacked her, so once the symbiote was returned to Eddie, she had to live with all of those memories. Unlike Lee, who had time to kind of erase and forget and just trick his mind into believing he didn't do these horrible things. Anne had this for like a hot minute, and then it went away while she was an adult. She's like, I know what happened. And it doesn't work out well for her. She was traumatized until the end of her life. She couldn't even leave her own apartment. Even for such a short amount of time, Venom can cause quite stress levels. Number 1, planetary attack. In Venom Space Knight issue 8, the symbiote teaches Flash Thompson a lesson about its past. Back to where it all began. Back to where the first host was born. Yeah, so after the two had bonded, he went back to his homeworld and took out everybody. Now all that remains are just graves of the dead. Venom describes this first host as a cruel and twisted soul, one who showed Venom the cruelty and twistedness of his own soul. He killed everybody on this planet, so naturally I have to put him at number 1.
Almost let a little girl die in surgery. In Amazing Spider-Man number 700, Doc Ock switches minds with Spider-Man. Sort of. Doc Ock, now in Spider-Man's body, is exposed to all of Peter's memories and experiences, and it definitely has an effect. He decides to become a superhero, calling himself the Superior Spider-Man. However, in the first issue of Superior Spider-Man, it's revealed that a portion of Peter is still residing inside of the body, and it has some control over Doc Ock's actions. So later in Superior Spider-Man number 8, the Superior Spidey finds a device that he can use to get rid of the last bits of Peter Parker that remain in his brain. However, in order to gain access to this device, he first has to perform surgery on a little girl. So this leads to a scene where Ghost Spider-Man is like in the background, basically trying to prevent Doc Ock from doing the surgery, knowing that Doc is going to finish off Peter Parker after he's successful. However, Peter does eventually relent and Doc succeeds in his surgery, but for a moment there it kind of seemed like Pete was ready to let a little girl die so that he could live. Not exactly Spidey's finest hour.
Number 9, killed MJ. So Peter's track record when it comes to loved ones isn't as bad as someone like Daredevil, but hey, it isn't great either. In alternate universes especially, Spider-Man has caused a lot of harm to those that he's loved, and I mean a lot. And even in the main continuity, his track record isn't so great. In the Marvel Zombies universe, Spider-Man was transformed into a zombie, and as this happened, felt the uncontrollable urge taking over him. He was like, I'm so hungry, I gotta eat people. He tried to tell his loved ones to get away from him, but it was too late, and he ended up not only killing, but full on eating both Mary Jane and his Aunt May. Of course, can we really blame Peter for this one? Not so much. He was a zombie and he wasn't really in control here. But knowing Peter, you can bet he likely reminisced and blamed himself continuously for this for days on end, even while he was a zombie. Because, you know, Peter just loves to blame himself for everything. And before we move on to this next spot, just a quick little reminder to give this video a thumbs up if you are enjoying it. It really helps us out at the channel, and thank you if you've already done it.
Number 8. Allowed a kidnapping. In Amazing Spider-Man number 112, we see Spider-Man really worried about Aunt May. She's gone missing after Gwen Stacy gave her a hard time for meddling in Peter's life too much, and he spent most of the previous issue searching for Aunt May. In this issue, we see Spidey has become so distracted, he doesn't even notice this guy getting kidnapped nearby. What's worse, when Pete does notice this guy, who also notices him, he starts the classic Spidey monologue about how helping this poor slob will take hours. Hours he could spend searching for Aunt May. He actually leaves the guy to get kidnapped, saying, maybe someday I'll have the courage to face myself again. Damn, Pete, you could have easily stopped and saved this guy. If that wasn't bad enough, later on it turns out that Aunt May wasn't even missing, she just had a new job. Way to go, Spidey.
Number 7, worst boyfriend ever. I wish I could say this was a one-time instance, but this is one of the worst, most consistent things that we've seen from Peter Parker throughout all of his relationships. He's not only super awkward around the ladies, but also has a tendency to behave badly with his romantic partners as well. For one, Peter very rarely lets people in on his secret of being Spider-Man, which causes a lot of problems early on in relationships that usually end up causing a breakup before things get super serious. And you might be thinking to yourself, but wait a minute, Amanda, hasn't Peter Parker told Mary Jane before that he's Spider-Man? Yes, but she also apparently knew from like day one that he was Spider-Man, so I don't know if that even counts because she knew the whole time. But beyond that, he also says things and does kind of things that are just in general awful. He snapped at his partners, lied to them, gotten them into all kinds of danger, blamed them for things that weren't their fault, and even at times physically hit them. Like when Mary Jane tried to break up a fight between Peter Parker and his clone Ben Reilly, and in a mindless rage, he slammed her back, causing her to go flying into a wall. Also, Spider-Man is super strong, so even if he like flicked Mary Jane, I imagine that would be terribly painful. Oh, and she was also pregnant at the time with their child, which just makes it even worse.
Number 6. He almost robbed a jewelry store. Okay, I know this isn't supposed to be top 10 things Spider-Man almost did, but I have to mention another really weird out of character Spider-Man moment. In Amazing Spider-Man number 87, Spidey has been suffering from an illness that he determines to be the radioactivity in his blood slowly killing him. He's been feeling delirious for a while and having a hard time using his powers properly, and he's swinging around the city, monologuing, wondering what it means for his future. Suddenly, he remembers it's Gwen Stacy's birthday, classic Peter, and he doesn't have a gift. So in a bizarre moment, we see Spider-Man randomly decide to break into a jewelry store and he steals a necklace for her. He realizes what he's doing before it's too late and he kind of like puts it back, but he's already caused property damage and like, you know, thank God they don't have cameras because Jameson would just have a field day with that. The whole thing is just a really weird moment. Spider-Man starting to wonder if he's losing his mind. And the whole thing was really surprising to me and he almost went through with it.
Number 5, killed MJ again. Yeah, for someone who claims to love her so much, Peter is not very good at treating MJ well. This one comes to us from another alternate reality though, so we do have to, you know, asterisk and add that in there, little editor note. Because of course, Peter would never kill Mary Jane in the main continuity, or more, he just hasn't done so yet. In the reality of Spider-Man Reign, we're taken to a potential future reality where Peter killed Mary Jane simply by loving her. Their being intimate, at least that's what's implied, caused Mary Jane to be exposed to Peter's radioactivity at a level where she ended up getting cancer and dying. His radioactive fluids. Yeah, that's pretty intense. In typical Peter fashion, this becomes one of his greatest regrets, giving MJ cancer, and only serves to basically drive him insane and turn him senile, which really doesn't help anyone and makes for a pretty crazy story when he returns as a bizarre and depressed version of Old Man Spider-Man. Old Man Spider-Man is super depressing.
Number 4. Worked for the Jackal. The whole clone saga was definitely one of Spidey's lowest points, especially just the way that they totally messed with Peter's character throughout the whole thing. He was calling himself the Spider and just acting generally unpleasant, but when he found out that he wasn't the real Peter Parker but a clone, he really didn't receive that news very well. The Jackal somehow ends up convincing Pete to work with him, and somehow Peter buys it, even though it means working against his friend Ben Reilly. Peter eventually does come to his senses, but man, how could he have ever been convinced to work with a supervillain in the first place? You know, every time I look back on this era, I remember why people hate it so much. Both versions of Spider-Man are pretty decent, but the way that they're pitted against one another as if there can only be one and everything, the whole thing just felt kind of forced.
Number 3 was too apathetic. Spider-Man's apathy is something that haunts him to this day and makes him pretty much the one to blame for his Uncle Ben's death. Well, I mean, I personally think Peter is much too hard on himself here, and that being that harsh only leads to more disasters later down the road that his intense sense of responsibility has a hand in causing, but I digress. Peter for sure thinks this is the worst thing he has ever done, allowing the man who would go on to kill his uncle to get past him. At the time when the guard who pursued the criminal asked for help, Peter simply didn't see the point in aiding. That wasn't his job, he thought. He wasn't a hero. However, afterward he learned that with great power comes great responsibility, a lesson that has haunted him and continues to both haunt and inspire him to this day.
Number 2. He killed Charlemagne. In the one-shot Spider-Man vs. Wolverine from 1987, we get to witness an epic showdown between these two fan favorites. Peter winds up in Germany investigating a mysterious arms dealer. Charlemagne turns out to be an old associate of Wolverine's, and she's got all kinds of people after her. They track her to East Berlin, where Wolverine plans to kill her, sparing her from being tortured by the KGB. Spider-Man isn't really cool with the whole killing her part of the plan, so the two of them have a bit of a fight about it. However, after a helicopter breaks up the fight for a second, Peter's spidey sense kicks in, and thinking that Wolverine is behind him, he turns around and delivers a full-powered punch, instantly killing Charlemagne. It's implied that she probably intended for this to happen, as she was wanting to die and stuff, but still, if you had told me that Spider-Man once punched a woman with no superpowers and killed her in one hit, I'd be a little skeptical. But it really happened.
Number 1, probably killed Gwen Stacy. Once again, Peter is causing harm to those he loves. What's more, this whole moment where he attempted to save Gwen and we hear her neck snap is made even worse for Peter in terms of his own guilt over the situation by the fact that he never really knows if it was him or if it was Green Goblin who is to blame for her death. Was she dead before he grabbed her, or did she die when his webbing latched on to save her, breaking her neck? We still don't really know for sure, although I think Green Goblin claims that she died while she was falling. He's like, a fall like that, she'd die before she hits the ground. And I'm like, wait, is that how falling works? It's not. Anyways. I mean, either way, Peter Parker is kind of to blame here, as Green Goblin has a tendency to target those that Spider-Man loves. So once again, just loving Gwen was in a way a terrible thing for him to do to her.
Superheroes should have like a no girlfriends policy or
They
something.
really should. They should be like, we should not date people. It's not gonna go well.
Taking off the list at number 10. She killed Maxwell Lord. Okay, it's one thing to kill an enemy, but to do it in front of thousands of people? I mean, do you have to? Wonder Woman issue 219 showed us a side to Wonder Woman that unfortunately had to come out. This issue was awesome. She handled Lord Maxwell and she wasn't playing around. Now at the time, Superman was a little off, and by off I mean under control by Maxwell himself. So he was a threat, and the two of them going at it was already intense enough. Something you don't want to see. Like Diana is pulling out some boss moves. At one point she says that every single strength can be turned into a weakness. And when he stops speaking, that's when I know he's using his ears. God forgive me, followed by a mighty huh, and just rocks his eardrums. Then she tries to shake Maxwell down using the lasso of truth, demanding to set Superman free from his grasp. He says, kill me, and she responds not with words, but with actions instead. And even Superman's like, whoa. And before we head over to number 9, guys, we have a huge announcement. We have another channel coming back after 3 years of running the show here. Landon himself is coming back with Landon Productions, and his first video is set to premiere December 7th. It's coming up, so go turn on your notifications on that channel as well, because you don't want to miss it. I've seen and heard what he's working on, and it sounds like a great time.
Is the Canada Goose gonna take it on?
I'm on top like I'm goddamn Mario, right? I'm just
Not today. Maybe tomorrow. Okay, is this real life right now?
Number 9, super intimate. Guys, superheroes have emotions just like us, okay? They meet other supers, they fall in love, they have super babies, they have lives too, it's fair. Sometimes key intimate moments are hard to conceal when you have the power of a god. So after the triumph that is The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller decided to dive into a scene that we could have all gone without, involving her and Superman. So her and Superman get it on. In a fancy super hotel, maybe the Fortress of Solitude? No, God no. They get it on in the sky, you know, causing massive tidal waves, volcanoes are shooting off, they even moved the earth a bit. Man, even people are evacuating islands. Like, this is a bad day for everybody but Wonder Woman, of course. Next time you guys want to get it on for a 5-panel straight, I don't know, maybe Egypt. Some place with a lot of sand and openness. Don't be blasting rocks at innocents. It's not nice. Number 8, Wonder Woman causing volcanoes to explode. I mean, that's pretty epic, but what about that time she made Captain Atom explode? If you drop a can of soda on the ground, it's ready to blow. You don't want to touch it. The last thing you want to do is puncture that can, or else you're gonna be sticky. Then you're covered in bees. No one wants bees. In the Injustice storyline, we find Wonder Woman making a not so smart choice when it comes to handling Captain Atom. So he's about to rock Superman, right? And then Wonder Woman comes in and cuts his throat open with her sword. Oh, you stupid, he says to Diana. I have more power in me than 10 nuclear bombs, and you and your stupid magic sword have just breached the thing that contains it. But then he decides, this is my last opportunity anyway, screw it. Grabs Superman, and then takes Superman out to get an up-close and personal look at the light show. Nice. Number 7, Darkseid's powers. Sometimes you have a choice, and sometimes that choice is a lose-lose. These happen a lot in comic book movies, like Doctor Strange giving away the Time Stone to Thanos and then powering him up. It's a bad move, but it's better than the alternative still, because he saw the future, he knows. So in Wonder Woman's case, he was less of a problem this time around. So when Brainiac took control of Warworld in the Our Worlds at War storyline, specifically Wonder Woman issue 173, Wonder Woman gives away part of her soul in order to restore Darkseid's powers. Why the hell would she do that? To fight off the alien Imperiex? Yeah? Okay, I guess that's fine, that's fair. It's more than fair. I mean, after his powers are restored, they're able to stop Brainiac 13 and Imperiex. but you can't be juicing that guy up. I mean, of all people, not him. Number 6, ahead of the game. So one of the changes to reality that occurs during the Flashpoint event is when Wonder Woman and Aquaman get married. It's great. I mean, well, not really. Weddings are just fun, I guess. I don't know. I hear the song Shout and then I black out. It's so weird. This is a reality now where Bruce Wayne was killed and not his parents. So Superman is in a government lab having a not so relaxing time, and then we see Diana being saved by a sea monster from Aquaman. Ah, how lovely. A nice thing. Ah, yes, classic Wonder Woman. Nothing like getting cheated on and then having your head cut off, adding injury to insult in this case. She then pops her crown off her severed head and then places it nicely on her own. And of course, a war follows between the Atlanteans and the Amazons, but comes to a lovely conclusion when Wonder Woman kills Aquaman by stabbing him in the back. Literally. Number 5, hung up on Trevor. Okay, so the Flashpoint paradox has a good chunk of not so pleasant moments. I mean, that's the whole point. Some things aren't meant to be changed, or else you risk opening the door to these nasty other realities. Like the one where Wonder Woman kills. A lot. So in the comics, we see Wonder Woman, rather Queen Diana at this point, send some Amazons to kill Steve Trevor, which alone, as I say that, just sounds terrible. But to make it even more list-worthy, the animated version is so much darker. Yikes. Okay, we see this scene in the Flashpoint movie, I'll stand up and clap. I'll do it. I'll be like, yes, you guys, someone did it. Number 4, bat for a bat. Jealousy can turn people, sometimes for the best. Like if your ex starts dating somebody new and you're like, ah, I'll show you by bettering myself physically and mentally. Haha, I showed you. Or sometimes jealousy can make you fight another superhero because you're too in love with Batman. Either one. In Batman Brave and the Bold issue 78, we find Batgirl and Wonder Woman going at it, all for the love of Batman. I mean, it starts off kind of cute. Wonder Woman writes, I love Batman in the sky. Hell yeah. And then this plane comes in and who could it be? Is that Batgirl? What is she? Oh, she's wiping with a lovely message. Awesome. Oh, she's writing something of her own. What does it say? Only I love Batman, Batgirl. Nice. So Wonder Woman's like, haha, okay, hold on a sec. Lasso's Batgirl. She's upset. I mean, fair. She just wiped away her message and she's like, no, I love him more. Impossible, she says. And then this is where Batgirl goes too far. She says back, nothing is impossible for you, you unhip chick. Wonder Woman ended up winning, but at what cost? Number 3, Hunted the Huntress. Now, when it comes to non-canon stories or alternate dark realities, sure, it doesn't really count as much. You can kind of put those away in your head and pretend like they don't exist. But these horrible actions are still done by our beloved heroes. It's hard to get over some of these happenings. It's kind of like when you have a dream your sibling is being mean to you, and then you wake up the next morning just angry at them for no reason. Like before school, they're like, good morning, and you're like, morning, whatever. Shut up. So on the topic of injustice, we find our main supers in a world that's not so bright. Issue 21 of Injustice Year 3 shows us just how great Wonder Woman is at cracking the whip when she wraps the lasso of pain around the neck of Huntress. And then the crack we hear is, well, it's exactly what you think. Now, she didn't mean to kill her, but I also didn't mean to wrist shot an orange hockey ball at my neighbor's parked car when I was 13. Accident or not, you're still paying the price, Buster. Number 2, cut to the chase. With Wonder Woman 1984 getting the official go-ahead to release on HBO Max this holiday season, it's fair to look into some other run-ins with the two. One that's particularly notable, starting in Wonder Woman Volume 3, Issue 26, titled Rise of the Olympian. So we see her interrogation skills bump up a notch when she crossed paths with Cheetah. So she decides to threaten her, of course by demanding Cheetah to tell her the location of Etta Candy. Or else she'll cut her tail off. That's crazy. That's like the superhero version of a mob boss taking a finger. That's so thug. And number 1, she left humanity behind. With time jumps and time heists, superhero flicks can bring up a lot of questions during the downtime in between these films. Like for example, Cap going back in time to be with Peggy. Wonderful, so sweet. May have even brought a tear out of my eye. Maybe 2 tears, or 70 tears. But then you think of all the things that still happen in real life and you're like, really? Like he was there the whole time? I feel like he could have done something for like, I don't know, one of those horrible events. Now of course, in doing so may just cause even worse things to happen, like we see with Barry Allen saving his mother, but then Wonder Woman hangs Steve Trevor. So it's like, This idea comes crawling back in now that we see Wonder Woman in modern day Justice League movies. She tells Bruce at the end of Dawn of Justice that men made a world where standing together is impossible, and left humanity for a century. I mean, again, I feel like you could have just stepped in, helped out with maybe, I don't know, World War II? Number 10, the football game. To kick off this list, pun intended, we go back to the golden age of comics with Jay Barrick to Flash Comics issue 1. So back in the 50s, the issue opens up with Jay trying to get the attention of Joan, but she's not interested, all because he sucks at football. In her words, she even says, "A man of your build and brains could be a star." Both tridents hurt. Oh no, whatever shall we do? Haha. And then in comes the super speedster just to ruin the game for the rest of the guys who've trained for like 16 years of their life to get there. And I love how happy he is too at this moment. Like, he's clearly been waiting for this his entire life. Like, he just flies through touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. One guy on the other team has the right idea. He straight up quits. And the game ends being 65-30. I mean, save some action for the rest of us, Jay. We warmed up for like 2 hours, come on. And before we move on to number 9, guys, if you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps us a lot here, and it's right there. It's right somewhere down there, it's that one. It looks like a hand with a thumb, it's hard to miss. All right, thank you, now back to the list. Number 9, Super Kids. Nothing beats a family outing. Either that means a trip to the movies or battling monsters with your super kids. That's right, once Wally West and his family returned from a fun little Speed Force trip, his kids had powers. How fun. Now, being so young, there's the Incredibles type question. Should they be allowed to be superheroes? Well, in the Flash Volume 2, issue 233, Wally comes up with the mindset that speedsters age differently. And sometimes it's hard to understand how much longer they have to live. So Wally thinks it's best to let them do what they want because YOLO, am I right? And it's a pretty cute issue. Like, the kids are eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, trying to fuel up for the fight. In the first few pages, Iris even admits that she stole the sandwich from a fat kid, so everybody wins. Those were her words, not mine. God, I should add another point to this list just for that line. What a savage. Number 8, the loop of life. Everybody has that one memory they wish they could just delete from their brain. Like, maybe you were late for work and then you spilled your coffee all over your lovely flannel shirt. Now, what if you had to relive that nightmare over and over, Groundhog Day style? Well, that's what happens to Zoom. In Flash issue 200, Wally West uses his powers to defeat him, but he freezes him and makes him repeat the worst day of his life over and over and over again. Now, this is why I want to be a speedster. This issue right here, I would love to do this. I would just make everybody chill out in their favorite memory and just kind of lay low. Maybe a couple I'd put in some embarrassing memories, you know? Of course, I mean, I'm a human. Like, he looks like he's in so much pain. You could just tell by the dramatic one teardrop. This is literal hell that he's in. He just sits and repeats the line, "He doesn't have a gun, trust me, Ashley," over and over. Poor Hunter Zolomon. I mean, he's not the best guy in the world, but you can't help for feeling somewhat bad. I mean, he's a human. And number 7, more mind games. Yes, of course, we go back to that same issue, Flash 200, where he puts forth this amazing plan to mess with everybody's mind. So now at this point, the Flash thinks, you know what, it's probably best if everybody just forgets who he is. Not too bad of an idea. So he gets some help from the Spectre and Hal Jordan. They talk it out, and Wally figures if he mind wipes everybody, all will be good. Bang bang, boom. Well, Wally ends up forgetting who the Flash is as well, for a short amount of time. So with everybody not knowing about the Flash causes the opposite reaction. There's more crime. No speedsters in the way? Heh, let's go rob some shit. And number 6, death is cool. Flash Comics issue 1, this time it's in the shape of Jay Garrick. So Flash decides it's a smart idea to go and attack a group of villains. Now at this point it's early in the comics and he's just now buckling down with the responsibilities of his new powers. So he goes, I'll go after them, let's do it. So what does he do? He ends up in a chase with a villain named Sir Satan. Cool name. And then he runs his car off the road, literally runs it off the road. Then there he was in terrible shape in the burning car, and Jay, furthermore wanting to take on the superhero responsibilities, decides not to help, but to rather just look cool. Like, at least collect his teeth off the dashboard first, you know? Fix his hair, maybe ask him if he needs a band-aid or two. I get it though. If I took down a supervillain, I'd probably talk some shit. I'd do monologues. I would do like Shakespeare monologues while he's burning in his car. And number 5, Prison Break. We go now to the Flash 164 from 1987, and the cover of the page shows Flash being put in the slammer. Ooh, the Flash is stuck in this mirror dimension where he doesn't exist, so there's a lot of questions floating around for the Flash. Now, instead of using his super speed to exit the station and figure out a game plan, he super kicks everybody's ass. I mean, this world thinks that all superheroes are evil. Way to prove their points right off the bat. The Flash even says, I gotta keep my cool. No matter where I am, I'm not gonna scrap with police. And then he immediately hoofs one of them in the jaw, breaking the shield guard on his mask. Number 4, ignoring a call for help. Flash 89 in 1994 Volume 2, Wally West was involved in a civil lawsuit. The plaintiff, Allison Armitage, was injured so badly while Wally was out kicking ass that she ended up having to get her legs amputated. That's how bad this ended up. Now, as if that wasn't bad enough, she said Wally West ignored her when she cried out for help. That of course caused her injury. She wanted $20 million for the whole case. Allison's lawyer was none other than the villain Abracadabra. So Wally thinks that there's something fishy going on, and the Barry Allen Foundation made an agreement that Wally can't use the Flash outfit or persona. Quite the punishment if you ask me, jeez. You're grounded, bucko. But don't worry, him and Allison come to an agreement in the next issue, but regaining the ability to walk was not included in said agreement. Now the best part of this issue has to be the court scene. The Flash goes nuts. He's asked if he did everything he could, and he's like, I'm fast as lightning. And they're like, yes, but did you do what you could? And he's like, I'm super fast though. I don't know. And number 3, killed Reverse Flash. Flash issue 324, we have the Trial of the Flash storyline. And the cover of the issue is enough to make you want to pick it up and take a peek. We find Barry as he sets for holy matrimony with Fiona Webb. Now, leading up to what's supposed to be the happiest day of your life, Reverse Flash starts leaving creepy messages for Barry. One message literally spells out in big letters, guess who's gonna kill your wife again? With a question mark that looks like a 2. Maybe he's going too fast, couldn't do it. Yeah, Reverse Flash had done that previously, but this time, he doesn't just punch him in the head a few times and talk smack. No, this time he changes it up a bit and breaks his neck. And afterwards, Barry was arrested. The police officer comes in and literally says, oh, I don't like the angle of that neck. He's like, hey, I've seen some necks in my time, rookie. That's a bent neck. I sleep on this neck quite funny, so whenever I see bent necks, I'm always like, ooh, I feel like the bent neck lady. Now, of course, it was an accident, but it still happened, and it's still pretty violent, so you gotta include it. And number 2, immobile inertia. So at the start of this video, I mentioned the name Bart Allen. Bart is the grandson of Barry Allen. Now, at this time, there's nobody like Barry or Wally to take the mantle of the Flash. He skipped the whole teenage years thing and went right to being an adult. Speedsters are wild, thus becoming the Flash for a small amount of time. Because the evil speedster Inertia, aka Thaddeus Thawne, killed Bart Allen. This evil clone of Bart Allen is responsible for him being gunned down. So when Wally West returned, he was pretty angry. But instead of killing him, he freezes Inertia, making him this sentient statue, and added to the Flash Museum, just blinking and breathing for eternity. Of course, staring at Bart Allen the whole time. Quite the punishment, I like it. I'm here for it, as the kids would say. And finally, number 1, Flashpoint. One of the biggest upcoming DC movies, and for good reason, the Flashpoint storyline, where the Flash tries to go back in time to save his mother from dying her tragic death. Not a bad idea at all. I'd probably try and do that too. This story was released in 2011, written by Jeff Johns and Andy Kubert, and starts with Barry waking up with no Flash powers. Interesting. In fact, the Flash doesn't even exist. Everything has changed. His mother, Nora, was still alive. Score! And his father, Henry, died 3 years prior. Not score. Yeah, in his own timeline, his father's actually alive. He's just in jail. There's no Justice League at this point, and Superman isn't even in the picture. The best part? And one plot point that we're most looking forward to is that Batman in this universe is actually Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's father. So Bruce ended up dying that night instead of his parents. So this caused his mother Martha to go insane, and then she ended up becoming the Joker, and that's why during the opening credits of Batman vs Superman, we're all hyped in the audience because we see Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Lauren Cohen, 2 amazing actors in such a small opening scene with no dialogue. Interesting. Now, with recent news of Michael Keaton set to return in that storyline, Jeffrey Dean Morgan took to the internet and said, Michael Keaton swooped in and took my gig. Nah, I think that's super cool. Ever since Zack Snyder walked away, my whole kind of bit in that world has walked away with him. However, there's always a chat going on. God, I hope Jeffrey Dean Morgan would be the best dark Batman. Like, we've kind of been waiting for a long time. Just do it, just do it. So we shall see, fingers crossed. I think that movie's coming out June 2nd, 2022.